Hi, everyone. It's Susan Gerbic from Psychics Explained. I had a nice weekend. I hope you guys did as well. On Sunday, my friend Paula and I went to a psychic fair. Richard Saunders often calls them mind, body, wallet festivals. So we drove about an hour and a half away to go to this event, and I was hoping they would have one closer to me, but this one happened to be a nice weekend where on a weekend where my friend was in town and it's always fun to have a nice drive. So the weather was great. We went on a drive and went up to this festival, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's kind of fun. I've got some photos and I'll show them to you as we go. So the first thing we noticed when we got there was they had all these different class speakers, and the speakers were not really anything I was excited about. Let me show you some of the different speakers they had here. Nothing really exciting, at least not to me. They had a speaker. They were doing two at a time, so you have to pick which room you wanted to be in, and I didn't want to be in either of them actually. Mm-mm-mm. There we go. Sorry about that. I had to move it so that I could see you guys on the screen pretty good. Okay, here's some of the speakers. Now, I don't know who any of these people are. I don't know if you guys do. Soul Search, that's the name. Dublin Enlightenment Expo, Sunday, December 1st. So we had a Reverend Anne Batchelder. Um, it's emotional and pain relief, a portal to uplift and transform your relationships, align with abundance, living outside, living inside out, harmonizing your inner and outer worlds, and connecting with your peace and power. None of those sounded even slightly like I wanted to sit and listen to. And then in the other room, there were these people. Let me know if you guys know any of these names. Ted Harris, clearing your space using your clairvoyance. Quantum healing, alignment is everything. I definitely did not want to go see anything about quantum healing. Awakening Soul's cosmic journey, mantra chanting. That was what was going on when I was there at 1 o'clock. And I'm like, there is no way I'm going to enter a room that has mantra chanting. I mean, mantra chanting. Come on now, really? God. This one is shaman practices, universal hermetic ray. Oh, I don't even know how to pronounce that. I'm going to just embarrass myself if I do. How to communicate so your partner really hears you. Okay, that might be helpful, but I don't know what that has to do with paranormal or psychics or anything like that, but whatever. So let's see, where should I start with my photos that might tell me some of the things? So we got in the room and it was a little crowded, but I guess it's hard to say. We didn't go into the rooms where they were doing the talks. I don't know how many people were there, but there was probably, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 people that were clients, and then probably 30 different vendor kind of things. They had the small tables where the mediums were at, and then they had, little venue spots where they'd have something set up. Now, it was enclosed. I don't know how to tell you how big it was. It wasn't that big. It wasn't like a football field or anything like that. It was tight and it was loud because there were so many people talking and trying to be heard, and then everybody else is talking to be heard. So, and you could get by, walking between things, but it was kind of uncomfortable. And then I don't know what was going on, but somebody there was trying to sell CBD oil, that they think that fixes everything, I guess. And I don't know if that's where the smell was coming from, but there was just a blanket of smell of like marijuana in the room. And it wasn't a pleasant kind of smell. And I don't know if it was coming off of one person. I mean, nobody smokes inside, you guys. We're not supposed to be smoking inside. especially in California. But it was coming from somewhere, and so that's part of the reason why Paula and I didn't stay that long, because it was crowded. It it was very loud, and then the smell was really bad. So, you know, psychic fairs, you probably should get a little bit bigger rooms and don't crowd people in, and definitely have a flow of air going through the rooms. So I have photos to show you of some of the things that were going on. Let's see. Let's start. Well, let me just start, and we can see if it's interesting. Hopefully you guys find it fascinating. Here is we went in to register, and it was Soul Search, and they had this guy, Jared the Medium, who I guess is their star. There he is. Well, there's his little booth and with the blue chairs. That's kind of interesting. And medium-sized ego. We didn't stay for Jared the Medium. That would probably be the thing I would have been most interested in watching. If you guys have any experience with Jared the Medium, or you want me to try to do a deep dive into Jared the Medium, I know almost nothing about him, but please let me know in the comments if you do. And he was, I think he was there at one point, sitting in one of those chairs talking to somebody. He didn't look like the person in this photo, but enough that you could kind of tell it probably was him, just not as photogenic as he is in the photo. And he was going to be on at 6:30, and we were there around 1 or 2, and I didn't want to stay till 6:30 to see Jared the Medium, especially since we had an hour and a half drive. I never quite understood what this guy was doing. That's my friend's hands there on the right, and you pay $5 cash. Thank you very much. And you pick one of these crystals or rocks, and then you put it on this machine. And what the machine does is it changes colors, really bright colors. And then it takes like a minute, and he says it's clearing the crystal or clearing the stone. He never made it clear what it was they were clearing it from. And then you put your hand on this machine over here, like that, and that changes color. And he was really excited about it changing colors. And you're supposed to get some kind of intention. I don't know what that is all about. And then your intention is supposed to give you I don't know, is it supposed to make the thing happen that you want, or is it supposed to reveal or give you guidance? I was not clear. I went in going, I have no idea what he's going on about. It was a machine. He kept fiddling with buttons and making the colors change. It meant zero to me. He did say something about chakras at one point. My friend was just like, okay, she got a really pretty rock for $5, but I guess it's cleansed or whatever now. There it is, blue. And then now it's purple. And he would get all excited. Oh, look, it's changing blue. Now it's purple. And we're like, yeah, isn't that kind of what it's supposed to do? And there was a lot of weed smell from this guy. So I don't know what was going on. Now this creeped me out. It was very creepy. See how crowded it is in there? So each table was just like next to the each other. It was very, very crowded. I don't know if you've seen the TV show The Prisoner, but especially for the very first episode of The Prisoner, which is Patrick McGoohan. I'm a huge fan of the Prisoner, Patrick McGoohan and The Prisoner. But these people on the left are sleeping or sleepy, and the people on the right are waving their hands in kind of a cup at them. And I guess they pay to be put to sleep like this, or to have somebody wave over them or something, and they probably feel better afterwards, but was creepy, which is weird. And there they are again, and they're getting put to sleep. So I don't know, but you can see how crowded it is there. And then there was you can't even see, I should have taken pictures. These people were getting detoxed in the back of the room here. There were these like saunas, and you'd get in, and they had all these women in there, and they were all covered up in this plastic. It was like, oh, that doesn't look good. I don't think that's a great idea. So it was as I see, it was an indoor room. And let's see what else we have over here. Um, yeah, I'll show you that in a minute. And these are pictures for my Thanksgiving that I'm sure you're not going to find interesting. Did a lot of jigsaw puzzles this weekend. Oh, okay. So this I know you're going to like. And this is a woman who had she takes, here's her card. Let me show you her card. So psychic medium, and she had to write her name and email and stuff on her. Annie T. Tran, psychic medium, and here she's on Instagram, and she puts together these floral things where she takes like a wedding flowers, and she puts them in, and she makes them into these little arrangements that are plastic and resin and stuff. And I thought that was quite clever. But she hand writes everything on there. I thought that was kind of interesting. Anyway, this woman gave me the worst reading I think I've had yet. And I've seen some pretty bad psychic readings. So we're wandering around, Paula and I are wandering around, and she's got nobody sitting there with her, and it was $15, so that was a good price. A lot of the others were 40, 50, 60, 75, $100 for 15 minutes, and I just didn't want to pay it. So $15, I'm like, okay. So I didn't do anything odd. I just sat down and said, sure, give me a reading. Here's my money. And she said her iPhone for 15 minutes, and she sat there, a nice, pleasant woman. And I, I looked like I look right now. I didn't have my Skeptoid shirt on, but I just looked like this. I didn't have anything, I wasn't trying anything funny or doing anything of the sort. So her gimmick was she would write as she went. And I'll show you this in just a second. So she took out she had like a pad of paper and a pen, and she told me she was a psychic medium. And I asked them, can I record it? And they're like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I don't have anything to show you really. It didn't come out. It was just way too loud to hear anything. She asked me my name and she wrote the date. And then what she does is she says, here, let me show you. I was like, what in the world is going on? First thing she says, left hand, I guess that's palm, right hand closed, 5 or 0 or 50. And then she goes, 5, I'm getting a 5, a 0, or it might be 50. And she just looks at you. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, well, what does that mean? What do you mean? What does it mean? Those are numbers. What about 5, 0, 50? She goes, well, that's what I'm getting. I'm thinking, you're gonna give me my money back in a minute, lady. I don't want to play around like that. So then she's like, okay, you don't know what 5, 0, or 50, it could be 50, it could be 0, or it could be 5. You don't know what that means? I'm like, they're just numbers. Okay. And then she says, and she writes this out. She puts a little dot at the beginning. Tell him that I am here with you, male figure. Tell who that I am here with you? She goes, well, I'm not really sure. I said, well, tell him. So is it somebody, are you connecting with somebody who's dead? Who's telling who that I'm here with you? She goes, I don't know. Let me ask. And then she gets quiet, and I guess she asks. And then she says, I am here with you now, blonde hair. Not me. This is great, by the way. She says, he is saying, whoever he is, I am here with you now. That's what he's saying to her. So she writes it down. And then she goes, I am holding your hand right now. Well, that's what she writes. I am seeing you through your eyes. Don't worry too much about this. You are aware of this now. I'm totally clueless. She says he's a man in his 20s. little chunky, blonde hair, and she's just looking at me like I'm supposed to make a connection to who this is. And I seriously have no idea who that could connect. Well, of course she's just making it up, right? But there's nothing there. It's just she's just looking at me like he's got blonde hair in his 20s, little chunky, rosy cheeks, she said. What about it? And so I tell her, I said, he's holding my hand. And I'm looking at my hands. And she's like, yes, he says he's holding your hand. And I said, okay, well, and then my friend Paula says, are you feeling anything? And I said, no, I'm not feeling anything at all. What? And so I look at the psychic right in the eye and I tell her, it sounds like he knows me well. And, is this somebody from work? Is this somebody from high school or college? Is this somebody who's a neighbor? Is this a friend? Is this somebody I socialized with? I mean, who is this person? She goes, I don't know. Let me ask. And I said, okay, because that would be really helpful. We could move along and maybe. And she goes, I'm getting an L. And I said, okay, I have no idea. And so I look at my friend Paula, who told me to call her Linda throughout the thing. She didn't want to be Paula, she wanted to be Linda. And I said, well, Linda is my friend right here. And the medium's like, oh, well, Linda's here right now. That's not her name. But she seemed very excited about that. Here, she writes it down. I'll show you. Susan's friend in attendance, Linda. Right now, you are being guided to your heart's desire. Show me how you feel right now. I thought, what do you mean, show you how I feel? Well, apparently, I was supposed to show her how I felt. And I told her, well, I feel frustrated because you're not telling me what the guy's name is. So I am frustrated because I have no name. And you're telling me about some guy who's trying to get a hold of me and you're describing him and I don't know what you're talking about. And he doesn't have any business holding my hand. So then she says, don't you know who I am? I'm guiding your heart's desire, my love. Love yourself always, Susan. Know yourself always, my love. And I'm like, well, the dude's kind of getting intimate here. What is his name? And then she puts these dots each time it's her turn, she's channeling him or whatever. Um, okay, I'm not sure what this is. Who's who's your who's your heart's desire with you or something like that. And then I'm asking again, what is his name? And I am holding your hand right now, Susan. My love is always with you. And I said, again, you seem to be really comfortable with me holding my hand and so on. So then she checks with it again, and then we go back. Hopefully, this is almost over. I'm about ready to end the reading myself. And I said, okay, again, anything? She goes, yeah, I'm getting an L. And then she says, it could be anything. It could be a last name, first name, location, um, a word, it could be anything. And she just looks at me like I'm supposed to know what the L stands for. So my friend Paula says, oh, how about Lompoc? It's a city down in Southern California. And the lady's like, oh, I don't know what Lompoc is. What is Lompoc? And she says, oh, it's a city. And I'm like, hey, Linda, my friend Linda, whose name is really Paula, don't take over my reading. I'm supposed to be getting a reading. Don't give her Lompoc. And the lady, she's like, let me write that down. That sounds very interesting. I like knowing about new cities. And so she has Paula spell Lompoc. And she writes it up here in the corner like this. Check it out. LOMPOC, California, question mark. And I'm like, don't get her distracted. We're working on this L name here for this guy. I'm trying to find out who's holding my hand. And then she says, location unknown. And I'm like, well, what's that? She goes, I don't know. He's telling me it's supposed to mean something to you. Location unknown. The phrase location unknown is supposed to mean something to me. And then I'm like about ready to get up and I'm like, oh my gosh. She goes, well, we got 3 more minutes. And I'm going, oh goodness. She says, she writes this last, my love is always with you, Susan. My love is eternal, my love. Love yourself. Cherish yourself always, my dear one. And I'm like, okay, well, that was fun. Or I said something like, okay, that was interesting. Thanks a lot. Okay, fine. And she's like, oh yeah, and here's my card and blah blah blah. And it's like, what the heck just happened? That was horrendous. Really horrendous. Then we went by a booth for another woman. Let me show you her card. She had a big exhibit, and her name is Sharon Samspell. That's this woman right here. And she doesn't look anything like that. And she's and she made a joke too. She goes, I've been doing this so long that I used to look like that. It was pretty funny. And you never knew how beautiful you were, for you never really looked at yourself. You never looked at who you are and what you are. You went to see what God looks like. Go and look in a reflector. You were looking him straight in the face, Rambeth. So we talked to her and she wanted to give me a reading, but she was $75 and I wasn't willing to pay $75. That was just too much money. And it was like for 15 minutes. And she's telling me that she goes to all these psychic fairs. She's constantly on the go. And she's done TV and a bunch of podcasts. And then she said that paranormal TV, by the way. And she's said she was voted best psychic from her town. And I said, what? And she said, I was voted the best psychic from where I'm from. And she kept dropping like at the end of what she's saying, from where I'm from or from my town or whatever. And I thought, well, where are you from? She says, Sacramento. And that's a big place. But apparently she's won some kind of award as best psychic. And I don't know what that is. Is that like an attendance, or is it like most colorful card or greatest photo? Or I mean, how would you even judge that? But anyway, so she had a lot, and she said she's not a medium. She says she can do mediumship, but she had some glib answer, because of course I want to do mediumship. I didn't want to be psychic. And I said, are you a medium? She goes, no. And then her answer was really, what was it? It was like, I can, but I'm not ready to go there myself. And it was just a real flippant answer that she's had done many, many, many times. So it was kind of, I don't know. I thought, mm, I don't really want a psychic reading. I don't want to know any more about somebody holding my hand or anything like that. That was kind of creepy already. So we go to this other one, and he's sitting there and he's all by himself. And his name is Sebastian. Let me show you his card. And he had a big poster size, and this was $40. And I said, all right, I'll do a $40. But then I think we're ready to go to lunch, because I was ready to go. Sebastian, psychic and spiritual healer. He does parties, birthdays, showers, housewarmings, and more. And there's this information if you want to know. And he's really into rainbows. And his table, I think I might have some photos. Let me see. Here's $60 for half an hour, 40 minutes, 15 minutes, $40. To one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge of the same Spirit. And he's got it religious, 1 Corinthians. You can do a business consultation for $120. Now I'm sitting with him and Paula's sitting next to me, and we asked them both, do you mind if I record? But again, the audio is just so awful. You can't really hear anything. It's so loud in this room. And he says, yeah, of course you can record. So I put my phone on there on the table. Let's see, I've got a few photos here. Let me make sure that this gives you a little. Paula sent me some photos because she was taking the photos. He had these cards that looked like they were metal, and they were playing cards, because he showed me. He says it's $60 if he uses these cards, these metal cards down here, but they're not metal. I touched them, they're plastic. They're just gold. And he says, if he has to use those, then it costs more because it's a lot more work. I'm like, okay, well, don't do that then. Just give me the $40 reading. So he had this very odd statue thing here. You see that? Looks like a mermaid. It looks like it's out of a romance novel. And then there's this wizard thing with a little crystal. Okay. He was really into color, lots and lots of color. So I put my $40 down. He goes, oh, you give that to me at the end. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to pull it on my purse now. So here's my phone, just, getting the audio. This stone he kept picking up a lot. And to me, it looked like a big a rock that had been polished into a heart shape. And there's a Christian cross right here, like a crucifix. And he had, let me see if I see a better picture. He had also on his table, um, he had this light source over here. I don't know if this will show really well, but let's try. Right over here in the corner, he had this um like a battery operated light that glowed. It had all these different colors that would recycle like in a circle, red, green, yellow, purple, green, yellow, purple, white, red, and they just flashed a lot. So you can see the reflection here. But there was people like right on top of each other all over the place. So he would take this stone and he would take it and he would lean in really close and he'd back off and lean in, and I didn't really know what was going on because it was hard to tell. He didn't have a timer or anything like that, so I didn't know when the reading was over, and he just kept talking so much. But he'd take this stone. Let me see if I have something that's equivalent to it that's nearby me. Here's a phone. He'd take the stone, he'd pick it up, and he'd take it and he would look at it like as if he was looking at a magic 8 ball. That's what I thought. It was heavy, like, it's heavy stone. And with the light shining on it, it was glowing and stuff. And I kept thinking he would say, so what do you want to know? And I'm like, well, what do you want to tell me? What do you see? And he was also a medium. And he said the same thing that other woman did. When I asked him if he could do mediumship, he said, well, I can, but I'm not ready to die yet, or something like it was another glib statement that was just like off of the top of his head, and he said it so quick I don't even remember it. But he's taking the stone, he's looking at it like this. It's not a phone, it's just a shiny object. And then he'd go like this, and then he would come back and he'd set it down. And then whenever I had another question or something, he'd pick the thing up, look at it again. I swear it was Magic 8 Ball, and put it to his chest, but it was a heart. And then he had this crucifix, and he would go like this over the crucifix with his finger and like wave his hand over the crucifix. It's just sitting on the table next to him. So it was, I remember Mark Edward used to do a lot of these kinds of readings, tarot, palmistry, and so on. He had all these little artifacts on his table to make it look interesting, crystals to bring people over to the table. And it was just kind of each psychic medium is, you're competing with all the other mediums in the room with you. So you're trying really hard to attract people over to you to look inviting and so on. But that was kind of his thing. So let me see if there's any. Oh, here, let me show you another photo. This is very typical expression of Sebastian. He'd be there and he's just looking at you. He gets right in your face, kind of. And so here he is holding um, his thing there. Paula said it reminded her of a seer stone, and I'm sure there's kind of some reason for that. He didn't like people getting right behind him because he says their energy was interfering with his energy. So people kept walking behind him. And you can see there's blue on him because there's a glow from this light over here. And you can see it's also my elbow. But he told me that let's see, again, if you don't have a recording of these things, it's very difficult to remember because you're trying to remember, you think you're going to remember, you think you've got it, and then you don't really have it. It's difficult. So to sum up with him, he asked me if I had a partner? And I said, no, not right now. And he said, has it been a while? And I said, yeah, it's been a while. I don't know what a while is. Is that a week, a month, a year, 6 years, 10 years? I mean, I don't know what that a while is. I said, yeah, it's been a while. And he said, you're not done yet. And I said, I'm not. And he says, no. Um, and the gist of it was, I'm going to meet somebody named John or Jonathan. And he's going to be somewhere. I'm going to meet him multiple times. And I said, like, what, at the store, at the library? He goes, yeah, something like that. So I'm going to see him in different places. Like I won't see him all the time at the same store. I'm going to see him at the store one day, and then I'm going to see him at a concert another day, or I'm going to see him at the park another day. And I'm going to just keep running into this John or Jonathan character. And he's going to be my next relationship, he says. And I didn't ask. This is just, he just volunteered all this information to me. I wasn't asking him about love. I didn't ask him anything. And he said that the more I get out there and busy and go to different places out of my comfort zone, the more likely I'm going to meet somebody. I'm like, well, that's just really good advice, you know? It's great advice for somebody who's looking for a partner in life or friendships to get out and meet people in diverse areas and be open to meeting them. He said that I'm not going to really know what's going on, or I'm going to be kind of clueless at first. I said, oh, okay. He also told me I need to start over, completely start over in my life. I mean, everything. I need to move and I need to go. And I said, you mean, well, what about my career or the things I do? And he goes, nope, you have to start over completely. I said, like sell everything and move? And he says, yes. And I said, to where? He said, the Midwest. I said, is that like Colorado? And he says, Oregon, Washington, Canada, something like that. And I'm like, that's a lot of different places. You know, could you be a little more specific? And he says, well, I said, am I going to meet John or Jonathan there? And he says, no, no, he's going to be local. I said, oh, so am I supposed to, is he going to go with me? Though, yeah, Paula asked, she says, is she going to meet Jonathan there? And he says, no, she's going to meet Jonathan here locally. I thought, oh, okay. Looking around behind me for some guy named with a name tag that says John on it. And so Sebastian says that I'm going to sell everything, my house, everything, you know, and move away to another state or Canada. And I'm supposed to, oh, and Jonathan's not going to be in the picture by that point. There's going to be somebody else. And then after somebody else, who's also unnamed, there's going to be another one. So there's going to be I'm going to have three loves in my life before I die. John or Jonathan, who I'm going to meet locally, and I guess it's not going to last long. Then another one, and then another one. So this guy didn't give me any help on any of that, but it was kind of weird. Well, okay, it was a lot weird. He said a lot of platitudes about how I should be kind to myself and listen to myself and so on. And he asked me if I had any questions, and I thought, well, I don't know, do I have any questions? And so I noticed that Sebastian, had a shirt on that had a cat on it. And then I noticed in the posters for Sebastian, there was cats there. Let me show you if you didn't pick up on that. So I was cold reading him, I guess a little. Okay, so you can see from the poster, there's a kitty cat right here. And on this picture, it's probably the same picture, but it was a kitty cat there. And so maybe it's why I got a reading from him because he had a kitty cat on him. And so also, like I said, on his shirt, I could see that there was a cat there. So I thought, I'll ask him about cats. Now I have three cats and they're all 16 years old. And I said to the man, I said, I'm worried about my cats getting older and if they're all going to go at the same time, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to deal with three cats going very quickly from each other, dying, because 16 is a long time, for a cat. And he said, let me ask, or let me look. And he picks up his stone thing and he's holding it and he's like, whatever. And then he's waving over the crucifix. He says, no, they're gonna die with enough time for you to grieve for each one before the next one dies. That's what he said. I'm thinking, okay, I guess, I don't know how he knows that. But he said the thing that probably would have been the most comforting for me. Who's going to want to have a cat? Your love the cats you love and adore, three of them die in the same week or something like that. So, no, it wasn't okay. So he told me it'll take a while. Okay, let me see if there's any other photos I want to show you. This has a couple pictures that maybe show the room again. This one is the people. These are pictures that Paula sent me, so they're out of order from where mine are. This shows the entrance here, and Holly, the shaman artist over here, free 5-minute somethings. These are the people in see these plastic things. These people would get in there and they do a sauna and it was weird. And they just were sitting there in the sauna thing for a while. There's Sebastian again. Here's that woman back there, the Sharon Samsel person. Here's what she looks like, I think. Was that her? Right there. And then somebody's getting up. They're holding hands over here for another reading. My Positively Matters. Oh yeah, here she is. That's her right there. That's this woman right here. I guess it sort of looks like her. I don't look like I used to either, but and then there's lots and lots of jewelry, and I don't really need a lot of jewelry. $75. It says Sharon Samsels. They accept Visa card. $75 for 15 minutes was just too much for me. I was going to pay that. Here I'm taking a selfie. My Paula's taking a picture of me taking a picture. Here is the different peoples that are speaking. Didn't know anybody there. This is the guy who's selling back here the CBD products, and it just was too smelly. Chronic pain, hemp oil, and so on. AnnieChannels.com. Here's a psychic here with her little Buddha. Another guy's table right there. Here's another one right here. See how close together they are? It's very, very tight feeling there. Okay, I think let me see, I think that's it. See if there's anything else I wanted to show you. No, I think that is all. It was a interesting experience. I think that people should do this. Richard Saunders, who I mentioned earlier from the Skeptic Zone podcast, who calls it Mind Body Wallet, he goes to these often and he says it's interesting to go once or twice a year whenever they have them. He's in Sydney, Australia. He finds them fascinating because there's like, well, he's been doing it for probably 20 years. But over time, you see different kinds of people going there. Like this guy had CBD oil, which is something you wouldn't have seen there 10 years ago. I remember going to the psychic fair in my area probably 15 years ago, and they had Scientologists there. And I thought that's really odd that the Scientologists would be there. They also had, like, you would see a bunch of booths that were more angel related, angel readings. But the aura people are fascinating that they're almost always right at the entrance. When you walk in the door, it's almost always the aura people. I don't know if it's because they have more outlets to plug into or it's a profitable business. So they want to be one of the first ones they get there and they just go and get their reading, get in there first. I'm not really quite sure, but every time I've gone to a psychic fair, it seems like aura readers are right at the right as you enter the building. Psychics usually in the middle, and then jewelry kind of placed more in the back, and food and stuff like that. But as I was saying, Richard Saunders will say that the psychic fairs, they change over time. So sometimes he's an expert on the power balance. You remember those ones where they put those plastic bands with that little computerized looking chip on you, and then they'd have you stand and they'd push down on your arm, and then they'd have you reposition yourself, and give you the bracelet, and then they push down your arm and you would have more resistance to it. So he's an expert on that, Richard Saunders. And he used to see a lot of that kind of thing happening at these events. And I do remember that, but it's kind of gone now. It's not so common. It's like there's when it comes to the world of pseudoscience, there's fads. That's what I'm trying to say. He says there's some times he'll see a lot more technology related kind of thing, like that aura reading thing where you lay your hand on it, colors things and makes the stones. I can't even repeat to you guys what that is, because I don't think the guy knew what it was. He just knew twist knobs and say words. And like I said, I've seen them with angels. I didn't see any angels there this time. A lot of psychic stuff. Um, Water divining, I think Richard had said he's seen people who had the divining rods. I think that was something he'd seen before. He'd also seen some things in the past that were more like healing, or like heal your cancer, that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to go. And I suggest, if you don't want to have to drive 90 minutes, try to find one of these ones in your local area and go, just to see what's out there. Sometimes they have some very beautiful jewelry, and maybe you can get some interesting foods, tea, cookies or something. I guess it might be good stuff to go. But I find it interesting how it was almost all female, and that these people are on a circuit. When I talked to them, they said that they go and they do all these psychic fairs, and I guess they see the same people all the time. It just seems like a pretty awful life to spend your weekends, or traveling from place to place, and the setup in these shops, and you have to do the same old thing each time. It looks like most of the time it is cash sales. The people I gave money to were cash. And and the first reader had me, got the reading from the woman with a 50, or the 5 or the 0, and the guy is trying to hold my hand. She had a jar of little pieces of paper, and that's how I'm walking by. She goes, "Would you like to take one of my," what did she call it? Your intention for the day. I wonder if the word is intention is like the thing. And she says, for the day, I guess it was supposed to be, I would channel it, or think about it all day. And you can see there's all kinds of different kinds of writing in these little slips of paper. So I reached and I pulled one out, and it said energy on it. And I said, energy. And she says, oh, how interesting. And I'm thinking, okay, that's interesting. I don't think it's interesting, but fine. It's just a piece of paper, and it had a word on it, and some had several words on it, but mine just said energy. She never to get back and relate to me what that had anything to do with anything, but okay. So if you guys have been to a psychic fair, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Mine was free because I registered in advance. And if I had shown up on that day, it would have cost $10 a person. And I registered under my own name. I have nothing to hide. These aren't people who are gonna Google me or anything like that. Or that there's no reason I wouldn't be able to go to something like this, and I don't have a problem with it. But if you've gone to these events, please let me know. I'd love to hear your impressions of it. Have you gotten anything value out of it? Have you seen changes over time? Have you seen, is it mostly women that go to these events? Is there anything of interest or anything? Just tell me what you think of these psychic fairs in your area. I know that in my area, they've stopped doing them, and they used to do them all the time in Monterey County. And so I think that might be something that's happening, is that you're just like everything else, you're able to get things online. And so I think the in-person things might be smaller and drying up. This was held at a Holiday Inn and in Dublin, California. And so I have a feeling that maybe they're having just as much trouble as a lot of other places are because you can get your crafts and your soap and your tea and your readings online. So that's mostly free for people. Whereas a fair, you have to pay probably they had to pay a fee to be able to get the booth, and then they have to show up and maybe even spend the night, and that eats into your cash cells. And if you don't make enough money, then the venues are not going to be wanting to do these more often because you got to rent that space, and I'm sure that the Holiday Inn wasn't cheap. Parking lot was pretty full, but then again, it was a Holiday Inn, and people it was a weekend, so there's guests there too. But if I had to count every human being I saw that was involved, either sitting there trying to get sales or people who were wandering around, I might have counted 50 people, I think. And that was about 1 o'clock. But then again, I didn't go into the rooms where they were doing the lectures. We thought about it and we wished we had gone and at least put our head in the door and looked and counted people, but we didn't. I wouldn't be surprised if there were like 10 people in the room because just judging from the way, yeah, it could have been more, but there seemed to be small rooms that they were going to be directing us to, but I don't really know. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Please like, share, please leave me comments, hit the bell so you get notified whenever I'm coming out with another one of these. Oh, just rambling videos. I enjoy talking to you guys. I hope you guys enjoy listening to me. I really do appreciate you. Thank you guys so much.